The world had known peace for decades, at least on the surface. Nations still argued, governments still changed, and people still worried about the future. But compared to the chaos of history, Earth had entered an age of progress. Cities glittered with towers of glass. Energy was clean, and most people dreamed of brighter days. Humanity was still young compared to the stars, but in their hearts, they believed they were ready for the future. Then, without warning, the sky itself was torn apart. On a quiet night in late summer, astronomers at several observatories spotted strange movements beyond the orbit of Neptune. At first, the signals seemed like nothing more than clusters of asteroids or perhaps a comet breaking apart. But the movements were too precise, too organized. Within hours, satellites picked up faint radio transmissions, alien, structured, and undeniably intelligent. The governments of Earth gathered in secret emergency sessions. Rumors leaked quickly, spreading across the internet faster than officials could contain them. People asked questions, some in fear, some in excitement. Were aliens real? Were they finally visiting? And if they were, would they come in peace? By the third day, there was no room left for doubt. A fleet of ships, black and sharp like blades of shadow, cut across the void of space. Their formation was too disciplined to be anything but military. They did not slow, they did not send greetings, and they did not hide their presence. Humanity watched in silence as the first alien fleet entered the solar system. At the United Nations Space Command headquarters, buried deep beneath the surface of Geneva, tension filled every room. Leaders, generals, and scientists sat around a vast holographic table where the alien ships were projected in red light. There were thousands, more than humanity had ever seen in one place. General Marcus Kane, a tall man with years of battles behind him, spoke in a grim voice. They are not explorers. They are not traitors. This is an invasion force, no one argued. The evidence was plain. On the 10th day, the aliens finally revealed themselves. From orbit, a massive triangular ship broadcast a signal. The transmission echoed in every major city, projected into the skies, onto devices, even across radio waves. A towering figure appeared, tall, armored, with eyes that glowed like burning coal. Its voice was cold, mechanical, yet filled with contempt. Humans of Earth, the figure declared, you are weak. You live on a world rich in resources, but poor in power. The Dravari Collective claims this planet. You will submit. You will serve. Resist and you will be erased. The message ended. Silence followed, broken only by the cries of fear that swept through the cities of Earth. For the ordinary people, it was terrifying. Streets filled with panic as citizens rushed to markets, trying to prepare for what they could not understand. Families locked themselves inside, staring up at skies now filled with dark specks, the silhouettes of alien ships that grew larger every day. In orbit, the aliens wasted no time. Smaller craft descended into the atmosphere, hovering above capitals and military bases. Their presence was a constant reminder. Earth was under watch and escape was impossible. Inside the halls of power, however, the response was far more controlled. Leaders spoke calmly, assuring the population that negotiations were possible. Official broadcasts urged peace, patience, and unity. The world was told that humanity would not fight blindly, but beneath the calm words lay a very different truth. Captain Aria Vance sat in the dim war room aboard the hidden station Erebus, orbiting the far side of the moon. She watched the broadcasts with steady eyes, though inside her heart pounded with fire. She was not afraid, but she was waiting for the signal. Do they believe us? She asked quietly. Her second-in-command, Commander Idris, nodded. The Dravari think Earth is defenseless. Their scouts report only the surface bases and the small number of ships we allowed them to see. They mock our weakness. Aria gave a sharp smile. Good. Let them laugh. For decades, humanity had played a careful game. Outwardly, Earth seemed behind in space technology compared to what the galaxy expected. Only a handful of colonies existed on Mars and the moons of Jupiter. Only a few hundred warships were known to patrol the inner planets. To outside eyes, Earth appeared like a primitive world. Rich in people, rich in minerals, but weak and helpless, that was the plan. Hidden across the system, in deep craters within asteroids, and beneath the seas of distant moons, shipyards had worked in silence. Vast fleets had been built far from any telescope's sight. Crews had trained in secret, preparing for a day when Earth's survival would depend on them. It was a secret known only to the highest councils and the captains who would one day lead the armadas, and now, the time had come. At Geneva, the United Nations Council debated furiously. Some wanted to surrender, believing resistance hopeless. Others demanded immediate war. But the Secretary-General raised her hand and spoke with calm authority. We will not surrender. But we will not reveal our hand too soon. The Dravari believe us weak. Let them continue to believe it. So Earth played the role of prey, speaking carefully to the invaders, pretending to stall for negotiation. The Dravari, confident in their strength, began to deploy forces across the skies. Their commanders sneered at humanity's pleas, seeing them as little more than insects. But on the hidden station Erebus, Captain Arya Vance and thousands like her stood ready. Their fleets waited in silence, engines cold, weapons quiet, but every ship alive with the hearts of men and women who had sworn to defend Earth. The order had not yet been given. But when it came, the skies would burn with fire, and the galaxy would learn a truth long hidden. Earth was not helpless. It had been waiting. The Dravari ships hung in the skies like shadows of doom. In every capital city, their war cruisers hovered above the tallest towers, a constant reminder that Earth was under their control. Their soldiers, tall, armored, and silent, patrolled the streets in small numbers, watching but not speaking. The world felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for a storm to break. Ordinary people whispered in fear. They spoke of surrender, of survival, of the hopelessness of resisting a force that came from the stars. After all, what chance did a planet of humans have against thousands of alien warships that could cross galaxies? The people could not see the truth. They could not see what was hidden. In the underground chambers of the United Nations Space Command, far away from alien eyes, leaders met in silence. Around the great table, holographic maps showed the solar system with bright red markers where Dravari ships had taken positions. Earth's skies looked like a prison, locked under alien watch. But behind the despair, plans were forming. General Marcus Kane leaned forward, his hand on the table. The invaders believe our fleets are small, weak, and scattered. They have only seen what we allowed them to see. They do not know the truth. The Secretary-General nodded slowly. The world must continue to believe the lie as well. If even one careless word reaches the Dravari, we lose our advantage. They must believe we are broken. In that quiet chamber, the secret was clear. Earth was not weak. For decades, humanity had built in silence. What the Dravari saw in orbit, the few dozen ships, the fragile stations, was nothing more than a mask. The real strength of Earth slept far from sight. On the far side of Mars, buried beneath the dust of Valles Marineris, vast doors rumbled open. From within the canyon, shapes stirred. Colossal warships, their hulls black as night, lifting slowly from their hidden docks. Engineers who had lived their entire lives in secrecy cheered as the first of the Titan-class dreadnoughts powered its engines. The ship rose into the sky like a mountain of steel, its cannons gleaming in the pale sunlight. Further away, in the icy depths of Europa's seas, submarine bays opened to release sleek carriers that broke through the frozen crust and rose into orbit. Even the asteroids of the belt, thought to be lifeless rocks, revealed their secrets. Hangars carved into stone split apart, releasing swarms of cruisers and destroyers that lit their engines in silence. Across the system, the hidden fleets awoke. Captain Arya Vance stood on the bridge of the Resolute, one of Earth's most advanced flagships, stationed near the secret base on the moon's far side. The ship had never been shown to the public. To the people of Earth, it did not exist. But here it was, a masterpiece of human engineering, bristling with weapons, its armor forged from alloys stronger than any before. She looked out the viewport at the stars, her jaw set with determination. Around her, her crew worked with quiet efficiency, preparing systems, running simulations, waiting for the moment when their orders would come. Commander Idris, calm but sharp-eyed, stepped to her side. The Dravari scouts are spreading across the inner system. They believe we are hiding nothing. They laugh at our surface defenses. Arya allowed herself a small smile. Good. The longer they believe that, the better. They think Earth is defenseless. Let them think it. Idris hesitated. And the civilians? They truly believe we are helpless. Fear is spreading fast. Arya's voice softened. That is the hardest part. They cannot know, not yet. The truth must remain hidden until the moment we strike. But when that moment comes, she turned, her eyes hard as steel. The people of Earth will see the skies filled with ships of their own, and they will know humanity is not prey. Meanwhile, in orbit above Earth, the Dravari commander surveyed his conquest. High Admiral Zyrith stood tall in the command chamber of his flagship, a monstrous vessel shaped like a jagged blade. His eyes glowed with cruel satisfaction. "These humans are as weak as the report said," Zyrith said to his officers. "Their leaders beg for time. Their soldiers hide in fear. They are nothing." One of his lieutenants bowed. "Shall we begin the harvest, my lord?" "Not yet," Zyrith replied. "Let them suffer first. Let them feel the weight of our power. When their hope is broken, when they kneel in despair, then we shall claim their world." He turned back to the vast window where Earth floated below, blue and green and fragile. "This planet will be the jewel of the collective, and these humans will be our slaves." But far below, in the deserts of Nevada, a different scene unfolded. Beneath a mountain that no map recorded, engineers worked furiously inside a chamber the size of a city. There, row after row of sleek starfighters stood ready, their wings folded, their engines quiet but alive. Pilots trained in simulators sweating as they prepared for the day when they would launch into real battle. Lieutenant Sarah Holt, a young pilot with fire in her eyes, climbed out of her simulator pod and wiped her brow. "How much longer are we supposed to wait?" she muttered. Her instructor, an older veteran named Reynolds, gave her a steady look. "Until the order comes." Not a moment before, Sarah frowned. "The Dravari are walking all over our world. People are scared. Families are crying in the streets, and we're sitting here doing nothing." Reynolds placed a hand on her shoulder. "We are doing something. We are waiting. Patience is the hardest weapon, but when it is used, it cuts deepest. Trust me, Lieutenant. When the skies awaken, you'll see." Sarah looked at the rows of silent starfighters and felt a shiver run through her. She did not yet know what was coming, but she could feel it. The weight of destiny, the promise of fire. Back in Geneva, the United Nations Council met once more. The Secretary General listened as generals reported the Dravari's growing demands. Already they were ordering Earth to deliver resources, metals, and food. They wanted labor forces prepared for transport. The invaders were moving fast, certain their conquest was secure. But the Secretary General's expression was calm. "Let them take their pride. Let them believe we are broken. For every day they underestimate us, our fleets grow closer to readiness." General Kane leaned forward. "And when we strike?" The Secretary General's eyes flashed with determination. "When we strike, the galaxy will learn that Earth is no one's slave. That is the day our silence ends." In orbit around the moon, Captain Arya Vance received a coded transmission. It was short, simple, but enough to send a ripple through her crew. "Protocol Iron Dawn, stand by." She looked at Idris, her second in command, and allowed herself a slow breath. "The moment is coming," Idris nodded. "And the Dravari will never see it until it's too late." Arya turned to the crew of the Resolute. Their eyes were tired from years of waiting, but behind that weariness burned the fire of resolve. "Prepare the fleet," she ordered quietly. "Every ship, every captain, every pilot. The day of shadows is ending." The bridge fell silent as the crew moved with purpose. Screens lit with activation codes. Power surged through systems long kept dormant. Engines warmed in silence, hidden from alien eyes. Across the solar system, in the cold of Mars, the depths of Europa, the rocks of the belt and the craters of the moon, humanity's secret strength began to hum with life. The Dravari believed Earth was helpless. But whispers of power filled the void, and soon those whispers would become thunder. Part 3. The Sky Awakens. For days, the skies above Earth remained darkened by the shadows of Dravari ships. Their cruisers hung over cities like predators circling prey. Their soldiers stood at checkpoints, their eyes glowing faintly through black helmets. To the people of Earth, it felt like a nightmare that would never end. In the streets of New York, children looked up with fear as alien transports drifted above the skyline. In Beijing, families gathered indoors, afraid of the silent patrols in the air. Across Africa, South America, and Europe, the story was the same. Humanity felt small. Humanity felt weak. But that illusion was about to break. Deep in hidden stations, alarms echoed. In secret hangars buried beneath moons, engines rumbled to life. In the asteroid belt, caverns carved by human hands shook as titanic warships lifted from their cradles. The time for silence had ended. On board the flagship Resolute, Captain Aria Vance stood tall at the center of her bridge. Her crew's eyes were fixed on the glowing screens as signals poured in from across the system. "Report," she said firmly. Commander Idris read from his console, his voice steady. "Mars shipyards report full launch sequence. 200,000 vessels leaving dock. Europa carriers have broken the ice. 100,000 warships rising from the seas. Asteroid stations are deploying swarms of destroyers. Moon bases are fully operational." The air on the bridge seemed to thicken as the numbers grew. Aria's eyes narrowed. "And Earth?" "Earth surface hangars report activation. Atmospheric launch will begin in 1 hour." Idris turned to face her. "By the end of this day, we will have 500,000 ships in the skies." Silence filled the bridge for a heartbeat. The crew knew the history of their people, knew how Earth had once been mocked as weak by the stars. But now, in this moment, humanity's secret would no longer be hidden. Aria spoke, her voice calm but filled with power. "Then let the sky awaken. Signal all commands. Protocol Iron Dawn is active." Around her, the crew moved with sudden energy. Keys were struck, signals sent, orders relayed. Across the solar system, humanity's fleets lit their engines. Above Mars, the ground trembled as massive doors opened in the red dust. First came the Titan dreadnoughts, mountains of metal that blotted out the sun as they rose. Their hulls gleamed dark silver, each armed with cannons large enough to split asteroids. Behind them, cruisers and destroyers surged upward, thousands upon thousands filling the sky in tight formations. From Europa, plumes of steam burst into space as carriers surfaced, their decks swarming with fighters ready for launch. The frozen moon shook as submarine shipyards released hidden vessels that had waited in silence for decades. The asteroid belt came alive. Rocks thought to be lifeless cracked apart, revealing vast hangars where destroyer fleets ignited thrusters. Swarms of ships burst from caves, lighting the void with trails of fire. And from Earth itself, great silos hidden under mountains split open. Massive carriers rose into the sky, carrying entire wings of starfighters. Oceans parted as hidden naval space cruisers emerged, lifting on roaring engines into the heavens. Everywhere across the system, humanity's secret armies came forth. The darkness of the Dravari invasion was now met with a storm of light. On Earth, the people looked up in disbelief. In city after city, new shapes appeared in the skies. Not alien ships, but human warships rising from hidden bases. Families who had cowered in fear ran into the streets, pointing and crying out as enormous dreadnoughts flew overhead. In New York, a boy stared up as a massive ship ascended from the Hudson River, water cascading from its hull. His father dropped to his knees, tears in his eyes. "We were never helpless," he whispered. In Cairo, a grandmother lifted her hands to the sky as squadrons of fighters streaked overhead, their trails painting the heavens. "We are not prey," she said softly. The lie was broken. Humanity's true strength filled the skies. High Admiral Zyreth of the Dravari Collective watched from his flagship as alarms blared across his command deck. His officers shouted in confusion as the human fleets appeared on their sensors. "Impossible," one cried. There were only hundreds of ships. "Where did they come from?" Another officer's voice trembled. "Sensors confirm. 500,000 human vessels are launching across the system." The Admiral's eyes narrowed, his glowing gaze fixed on the projections. For the first time, there was no arrogance in his face, only shock. "They deceived us," Zyreth muttered. "They were never weak. They were waiting." His claws tightened on the arm of his throne-like chair. He had thought this conquest would be simple. A helpless world, a swift victory. But now, before him, he saw a fleet so vast it rivaled the great powers of the galaxy. And it was rising to meet him. Back on the Resolute, Captain Aria Vance stood tall as the first lines of human ships appeared outside the viewport. The blackness of space was now alive with light as wave after wave of vessels took formation. "Open fleet-wide channel," Aria ordered. A tone rang across 500,000 ships. Every captain, every crew, every pilot heard her voice. "People of Earth," she began, her voice steady and strong. "For too long we have been seen as weak. For too long the galaxy believed we were prey. Today that ends. Today we show them who we are." Her voice grew sharper, filled with fire. "We are the sons and daughters of Earth. We have built in silence. We have endured in shadows. And now we rise together. For every child who looks to the stars, for every family who prays for safety, today we stand as their shield." On ships across the system, crews cheered. Pilots shouted in their cockpits. Soldiers raised their fists. Together, Arya declared, we are humanity's sword. And today, the galaxy will remember our name. Her words echoed through the fleet, carried into the hearts of millions. Earth does not kneel. The roar of voices that answered her shook even the silence of space. The first battle began within the hour. Dravari fleets moved to intercept, their black cruisers surging forward like a tide of blades. But they met not a fragile defense but a storm of fire. Human dreadnoughts unleashed beams of pure energy that ripped through alien hulls. Swarms of starfighters darted between enemy formations, striking with precision and speed. Carriers released wave after wave of reinforcements, while destroyers shielded civilians on Earth's surface. The void burned with light. Explosions bloomed like suns as ship after ship was torn apart. For every human ship that fell, 10 more surged forward. The Dravari fought with fury, but they were overwhelmed by the sheer size and determination of Earth's fleets. From her command chair, Arya Vance watched the battle unfold. Her eyes were hard, her hands steady. She had waited her entire life for this moment, and she would not fail. Push them back, she ordered calmly. Show them Earth is no one's prey. And across the skies her command was carried out. On Earth below, the people watched as alien ships fell from the sky in flames. They cheered as human warships lit the heavens. The fear that had gripped them for days melted away, replaced by pride, hope, and fire. They believed Earth was helpless. But now the skies were filled with the thunder of 500,000 warships, and the galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. The solar system had become a battlefield. Once quiet orbits around Mars, Jupiter, and the Moon were now alive with the roar of engines and the hum of weapons. The Dravari collective had thought their conquest would be swift, a few days, maybe a week before Earth would bow. They had not counted on the fury, preparation, and courage of humanity. Captain Arya Vance stood on the bridge of the Resolute, eyes fixed on the hollow projection of the battlefield. Thousands of human ships swarmed around the system, forming walls of energy and fire. Dravari warships surged forward in waves, but they met the full force of a people who had waited decades in silence for this moment. Commander Idris, standing beside her, adjusted the targeting systems. Admiral, he said, the Dravari are reorganizing. They are forming a second front near Jupiter. It seems they are trying to divide our forces. Arya's jaw tightened. Good, let them try. We are ready for any strategy they throw at us. Signal all fleets, defend the colonies, hold the orbits, and do not falter. The message spread instantly across the human armadas. Every pilot, every crew member, every captain understood the stakes. There was no turning back. In orbit above Mars, Captain Lynn of the Vanguard Squadron guided his cruisers into formation. Red energy beams lanced across the void, slicing through Dravari destroyers. Explosions bloomed in the darkness like fireworks, illuminating the terrified and stunned faces of enemy crews. Keep pushing forward, Lynn barked. Do not let them divide us. His fighters darted between the enemy, launching missiles that struck alien cruisers with precision. The Dravari were disciplined, but human ingenuity and adaptability overwhelmed them. Even when a Dravari ship tried a sudden flanking maneuver, Lynn and his squadron anticipated it, redirecting their forces to cut off the attack. Below, humans watched in awe. Families and children looked up at the skies as massive battles unfolded across the heavens. Cities trembled with the distant thunder of distant explosions, but hope burned brighter than fear. High above Earth, in the command chamber of the Dravari flagship, High Admiral Zyreth watched his forces falter. His eyes, glowing with fury, scanned the holographic battlefield. Why are they stronger? He growled. They should not be able to fight like this. They are primitive. One of his lieutenants, trembling, answered, Admiral, our numbers are still larger, but their coordination. It is unlike anything we expected. They anticipate our moves, they adapt instantly. Our attacks are being countered before we can even strike. Zyreth slammed his clawed hand against the control console. Impossible. They cannot be unprepared. All of the reports said they were weak. The Dravari had underestimated Earth. They had believed their size and technology would win the day. They had not counted on human resilience, human adaptability, or human courage, and now, that mistake would cost them. In the asteroid belt, human destroyers darted in and out of the shadows of massive rocks, using them as cover. Human pilots were everywhere, Small fighters weaving through debris, striking Dravari cruisers from unexpected angles. Some ships sacrificed themselves to protect larger vessels, while others drew the enemy into traps. Lieutenant Sarah Holt, piloting one of the fast attack craft, grinned as she fired missiles that tore through a Dravari frigate. "Take that, you overgrown lizard!" she shouted, her voice echoing through her comm link. "Focus, Lieutenant," her instructor Reynolds called. "We are winning, but stay sharp. The Dravari will not give up easily." Explosions lit the void, metal screamed under the pressure of energy beams, and still humanity pressed forward. Every ship that rose from hidden hangars, every fleet that joined the fight increased Earth's chances. Captain Aria Vance observed the battlefield carefully. She knew the Dravari were cunning. They would attempt to break through defenses, target civilian populations, or hit vulnerable colonies. But humanity had anticipated these moves. "Redirect half of the Europa fleet to Jupiter," she ordered. "Cover the outer colonies and set traps. The Dravari will underestimate our tactics again, and we will be ready." Idris nodded, sending commands that spread instantly across hundreds of ships. Human warships adjusted course, reorganized formations, and moved in perfect synchronization. In space, the battle raged on multiple fronts. Above the moon, massive human dreadnoughts blocked Dravari cruisers attempting to bombard cities. Above Mars, waves of Dravari fighters were met with squadrons of human starfighters that outmaneuvered them at every turn. And in the depths of the asteroid belt, human destroyers set ambushes, striking alien vessels where they least expected. The Dravari, once confident of victory, began to feel the first tremors of fear. "Admiral," Commander Idris said, his voice tense, "they are regrouping near Jupiter. It seems they are preparing a full-scale assault." Aria's eyes narrowed. "Let them come. They will find no easy victory. Signal all fleets, focus fire, anticipate their attacks, and never let them surround you." The human fleets surged forward with determination. Missiles, energy beams, and plasma bolts streaked across the void. Entire alien squadrons were destroyed before they could reach Earth. On the surface, citizens watched with awe. The nightmares of the past days, fear, despair, helplessness, faded with every explosion that tore through enemy ships. Humanity was fighting back. Humanity was winning. High Admiral Zyreth's fury grew. His fleet had never faced such coordination, such adaptability. He issued new orders directing his ships to concentrate firepower on the moon and the Earth's orbit. "They are strong," he growled, "but we will crush them. All forces concentrate on the inner planets. Destroy their fleets before they can regroup." Dravari cruisers surged forward with renewed aggression, aiming to break through humanity's lines. But human ingenuity proved unstoppable. Ships sacrificed themselves to shield carriers. Fighters darted between lasers, and massive dreadnoughts drew enemy fire while launching counterattacks. Every move the Dravari made, humanity had anticipated. Every strategy was met with resistance. Every attack countered with precision. Captain Aria Vance monitored the battle closely. She could feel the weight of the fight pressing down on her, but she did not falter. She knew that Earth's survival depended on her decisions, on her ability to anticipate the enemy, and on the courage of every soldier under her command. "Prepare for concentrated counterattack," she ordered. "Target their lead cruisers. Hit their command ships first. Break their formation, and the rest will crumble." The human fleets moved in perfect synchronization. Massive energy beams tore through alien hulls. Squadrons of starfighters struck from every direction. Alien command ships were destroyed one after another, causing confusion and panic among the Dravari forces. Explosions lit the void. Fire streaked across the darkness, and slowly, the tide began to turn. Below, on Earth, people watched the battle unfold across screens and projections. Families who had huddled in fear now cheered. Children waved at the sky, imagining themselves as part of the fleets. Citizens whispered to one another, finally understanding the truth. "We were never helpless," a teacher said softly to her students. "We were always ready. We just had to wait for the right moment." Every explosion, every victory strengthened hope. Humanity's courage spread across the world like wildfire, uniting people who had once feared they were alone against the stars. As the battle raged, High Admiral Zyreth realized the depth of his mistake. Humanity was not a weak world. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was strong, adaptable, and fearless. He roared in frustration. "They are more than we predicted. Fall back, regroup. Do not let them destroy our fleet. But it was too late. Human strategy, human courage, and human determination had already shifted the battle. The Dravari were forced to retreat from key positions. Fleets that had once advanced confidently were now scattered, trying to avoid destruction. Above the moon, dreadnoughts of humanity held strong. Above Mars, fleets pressed forward. In the asteroid belt, destroyers continued to ambush enemy reinforcements. The Dravari had underestimated Earth, and now they were paying the price. On the Resolute, Captain Arya Vance allowed herself a moment to breathe. The battle was far from over, but humanity had proven its strength. "Communicate with all fleets," she ordered. "Hold positions but prepare for pursuit. They will regroup, but we will be ready. Today we have shown them who controls this system." Commander Idris nodded. "They will not forget this day." Arya's gaze swept across the bridge, her eyes full of fire. "No, they won't, and neither will the galaxy. Humanity has awakened. Today we fight not for survival alone, but for respect, and we will take it." Across the solar system, human fleets moved with precision, their engines blazing. They fought with courage, with strategy, with unity. The Dravari had entered the solar system believing Earth was helpless. Now they knew the truth. Humanity was strong. Humanity would not bow, and the reckoning had only just begun. The battlefield stretched across the solar system, from the pale deserts of Mars to the icy depths of Europa, from the asteroid belt to the moon's craters. Yet despite the enormity of the fight, the outcome was becoming clear. Humanity had proven it was no longer prey. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with. Captain Arya Vance stood on the bridge of the Resolute, her eyes fixed on the star-studded void before her. Hundreds of thousands of human ships moved in perfect coordination. The Dravari fleet, though still vast, had been broken. Their command ships destroyed, their formations shattered. The once confident invaders were now retreating in confusion, forced to fight for survival rather than conquest. "Status report," Arya commanded, her voice calm but firm. Commander Idris, standing at the tactical console, gave a detailed update. "The Dravari command ships are retreating. Their cruisers are disorganized. Many are signaling for withdrawal. Casualties are extremely high on their side. Our fleets remain mostly intact. Humanity is winning this war." Arya nodded, feeling a surge of pride, but she knew the battle was not yet over. "Prepare pursuit fleets. We will not give them time to regroup. Every ship must be ready to strike. Today we finish this fight." Across the solar system, human fleets surged forward. Dreadnoughts fired devastating volleys that tore through remaining enemy formations. Starfighters weaved in and out, striking vulnerable points in the alien ships' hulls. Destroyers flanked retreating forces, cutting off escape routes. Every human ship fought with precision, determination, and courage. On the bridge of a human cruiser near Jupiter, Lieutenant Sarah Holt watched as waves of Dravari ships faltered under their relentless assault. "They're breaking," she said, disbelief and excitement in her voice. "They're really breaking." Her instructor, Commander Reynolds, nodded grimly. "We've prepared for this moment. All of our training, all of our waiting, it's paying off. Humanity will not be conquered." High Admiral Zyrith of the Dravari fleet realized that defeat was inevitable. His once mighty command ship now drifted at the center of a collapsing formation. Signals from subordinate ships poured in, reporting destruction and loss. The invaders had underestimated Earth, underestimated humanity's preparation, and underestimated the spirit that fueled every soldier and pilot fighting in the human fleets. Zyrith roared in frustration. "Retreat," he demanded, but his voice carried no power. His fleet, already fractured, had lost cohesion. Many ships ignored orders, attempting to escape on their own. The Dravari had come to enslave Earth, and now they were running from it. Arya observed the retreat with unwavering focus. She knew that caution was still necessary. The Dravari were dangerous, and desperation could make them deadly. Pursuit fleets engage only to secure victory, not to destroy unnecessarily. Let them know the price of underestimating humanity. But do not overextend, she ordered. Meanwhile, across Earth, the skies were filled with awe. Millions of people watched as human ships, once hidden in shadows, dominated the heavens. The roar of engines and the glow of energy beams filled the skies above major cities. Children ran outside, waving, pointing at the sky as massive dreadnoughts passed overhead. Families who had once cowered in fear now cheered in disbelief. In Tokyo, a father hugged his son tightly, tears streaming down his face. "We were never helpless," he whispered. "We were waiting. We were ready." In New York, citizens filled the streets cheering as waves of human ships streaked across the atmosphere, their engines blazing. Humanity had risen from fear to power, from shadows to strength. In the asteroid belt, destroyers pursued fleeing Dravari ships. Hidden hangars that had once housed warships were now empty, their fleets fully deployed and victorious. The ingenuity of humanity shone brightly as they used the environment, the rocks, the gravity wells, the narrow passages, to their advantage. Ambushes, feints, and counterattacks ensured that the Dravari could not regroup or mount an effective counteroffensive. Lieutenant Sarah Holt guided her fighter through a field of debris. Dodging energy beams and debris from destroyed ships, she fired her last missile, striking a Dravari cruiser that had attempted to flee. "That's one less for them," she shouted over the comms. Reynolds responded with a proud smile. "Excellent work. Humanity is unstoppable when we fight together." In orbit above the moon, Captain Arya Vance surveyed the battlefield. Thousands of human ships surrounded the remaining Dravari forces. The aliens were retreating, disorganized, and demoralized. Humanity's fleets had proven that the galaxy had been wrong. Earth was not helpless, and humans were not to be underestimated. She turned to her communications officer. "Send a signal to all human fleets. Broadcast our victory. Let the Dravari know this is only the beginning." The message went out across the solar system. "To any who would threaten Earth, we are human. We endure, we adapt. We will never kneel. Today we rise." Back on Earth, the transmission played across every device, every screen, every broadcast. People cheered, cried, and hugged one another. Humanity had fought against overwhelming odds and emerged victorious. The fear that had gripped the world was replaced by pride, hope, and unity. Leaders spoke to their citizens, reminding them that victory was the result of preparation, courage, and faith in one another. Every soldier, every pilot, every crew member had contributed to this day. Earth had not only survived, it had triumphed. Meanwhile, the Dravari retreat continued. Their ships fled toward the outer edges of the solar system, battered and broken. High Admiral Zereth's pride was shattered. He had underestimated humans, thinking them weak, primitive, and defenseless. Now he could only retreat and reconsider. The galaxy had seen the strength of Earth, and the Dravari would think twice before returning. Captain Arya Vance allowed herself a rare moment to breathe. The battle was over, and Earth had survived. But she knew that this victory was not the end. It was the beginning. Humanity had shown the galaxy that they were capable, determined, and courageous. The stars were no longer a place of fear. They were a place of opportunity, of challenge, and of pride. "Prepare for return to base," Arya ordered. "Let the fleets regroup, repair, and celebrate. Humanity has earned this day." Across the solar system, celebrations began quietly among the human crews. Fighters performed synchronized maneuvers. Dreadnoughts saluted one another with energy bursts, and destroyers signaled victory in waves of light. Even in the silence of space, humanity's triumph was loud and clear. On Earth, people looked to the skies and saw the fleets returning home. The once hidden ships now filled the heavens with pride and power. Humanity had awakened, and the world would never be the same. Children looked at the stars, imagining the future and the adventures yet to come. Families celebrated together, knowing that they had survived against impossible odds. Humanity's place in the galaxy had changed forever. Captain Arya Vance addressed her crew one last time before returning to Earth. "We were told we were helpless. The galaxy believed we were weak, but we have shown them the truth. Humanity stands together, strong, courageous, and unyielding. Remember this day. Remember that we are human and we will never kneel." Her words were echoed across every ship, every pilot, every crew member. The voice of humanity, united and proud, filled the void of space. And as the fleets returned to hidden bases, to orbiting stations, and to Earth itself, the galaxy watched in awe. For the first time, the universe understood that humans were not prey. They were a power to be respected. The Dravari would remember. Other civilizations would remember. And humanity would continue to grow, explore, and rise among the stars. Earth had survived. Earth had won. And humanity had ascended.